What's up, Rawcast listeners? Doug here with another edition of Rawcast AD. We don't really have an agenda today. I know we want to talk about craft brews a little bit, but one of my greatest friends from the days of college, back when he was a CA and I was just a troublemaking asshole, my good old buddy Nathan, who ended up being my roommate in addition to somebody who got me on track. When I lived with you, buddy, you got me back to where we had to clean an apartment all the time.
Except for Andrew.
Andrew won't even friend me on Facebook now.
Yeah.
His nickname was Rainbow, and I'm going to tell you right now, Rainbow, you get back to me. Otherwise, well, no, remember the casserole dish?
Yeah. Don't get back to us. Take your time.
Yeah, you a-hole. Deleted me off Facebook. But no, Nate, it's been a long time. Probably 2 years at least.
No, I think it was shorter than that because we met at Culver's for dinner.
Oh yeah,
That was last
that's
winter,
right.
I think.
So that was
about
that was a pleasurable moment.
Yeah,
I just want to say that.
It was good.
But how are you today, man?
Doing well. It's the weekend, so no plans. Checked out a band at Goose last night with some other old friends from the residence halls. They were
Really?
like a reggae rock something band called Frog Legs. It was enjoyable.
Oh, I've heard of them.
But just when you think one of their songs is going to end, it just keeps fucking crescendoing. And it was just... Then they would go into impromptu solos. And it was good, but, more often than not, I found myself, tapping my foot, bobbing my head, just sitting there enjoying it. And Goose has always been one of my favorite places. It's the only bar I can really tolerate going to.
It's still quality, in my opinion.
So... But
I haven't been down to the Square in years. We're talking Stevens Point, Wisconsin, folks, because I actually checked the SoundCloud plays the other day, and we got people in France, the UK, Brazil listening to this. That's kind of interesting. So Stevens Point, Wisconsin, most of the bars have centered on the downtown area, which they more or less revamped with a beautiful fountain in the middle that I've never really seen on.
Which, yeah, it's a statue, not a fountain. There's no running water.
Wait, there's just no running water?
Yeah, I've never... the first time they installed it was the only time the water actually ran.
Check this out.
So.
It's something cool we can do. I mean, we're not going to, but you can imagine what it'd be like, right? God.
Picture in your mind's eye.
That's the
water everywhere. And maybe a drunk guy pissing.
Now I have to pee. But I mean, we go back to the days I first met you when you were a CA, or what does a CA stand for?
Community advisor.
Community, as opposed to the RA, residential advisor. At that point, I think I was still a freshman, living with Mr. Dave Synthesizer Klug. I was a bit of a rabble-rouser. You kind of set me straight. I mean, you had an interesting story about your college years. It kind of hit home. And then over the course of a year, we ended up signing a lease together to live in an apartment. I still owe you to this day because it was going to be a girlfriend of mine that I lived with at the time, and we broke up and you moved in.
Yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind because I was committed to moving in with some other folks, and that just wasn't moving fast enough. And I was like, well, I kind of need a place to live. And
Is that how it ended up?
Pretty much. And I remember you and Andrew saying, oh, yeah, she's not moving in anymore, so we need a third person on the lease. And she had already signed at the time, so I remember we had to get back in contact with Brian. And, go through his lecture about pretty much how he hates men. And
you know that he lied to us about the rent going up?
Oh, I don't doubt it.
No, because it turns out I know two of the people that lived in the exact same apartment we lived in. And they were paying the same amount for rent that we were when we lived in there. And this was what, 2009, 2010? Or 2010, 2000... Yeah, it was 2009, 2010.
Yeah, because we graduated in 2011. So.
Yep, I ended up commuting. But yeah, we had a nice 3-bedroom apartment right behind Marvin's in Stevens Point. And that was fun to me. The place was always clean because you and I despite me working full-time, going to school full-time, you being extremely involved on campus and going to school full-time, the place was clean.
It was. It was clean, and it was fun. And, because mostly it was just you and I. Andrew was off.
We never knew what he
doing
was
his
doing.
own thing. And
I don't know. He had like some sort of golem creature or something he rolled around with. I don't know.
To me, that was so pathetic. He was just trying to hang on to what he had with her, and it was like, dude, it's not working.
We were kind of like we played bad cop with it, I think, which was kind of harsh on him, but.
You're fucking dumb. Yeah, you're fucking dumb.
What he said twice. But, I mean, that place was kind of shady. Like, when we first moved in, Andrew didn't have a door to his room because apparently the last tenant punched a hole in it, and they just didn't replace it over the 3 months the place was empty.
I remember the one summer we had really bad ants. I remember going to pour my cereal out in the morning, and I pour the fucking cereal, and there's just ants crawling over every flake of cereal. I was like, fuck it, I'm still eating it. Got nothing else.
I'll show them.
Hey, man, bugs are full of protein.
Well, then I think we thoroughly enjoyed taking the ant killer to the windowsill in the living room.
Yeah.
And we had such a good setup. I mean, our entertainment stand, I think your parents took us to
fucking Menards. The cinder blocks. I still had that entertainment center up until about probably 3-4 months ago.
Oh my God.
When I finally got a hand-me-down entertainment center from my grandma.
So we're talking 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Damn near.
Got a lot of life out of that thing. So it was just
cinder blocks and countertop
chunks. Yeah. The countertop chunks that you find in like hey, this is $1 bin. So that entertainment center altogether was probably about $5.
And it worked great. Seriously.
It was modular.
It was modular. Like a lot of hipsters would be like, that's quaint.
Yeah. I'm going to put my indie record collection on there as I beat off to my flannel and my
but
beard.
The special edition vinyl is just, it's taller because it came with a t-shirt. And now I need to put 2 more cinder blocks in to extend the height.
Let's not talk about hipsters. Let's save that for a different day. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's an angry drunk kind of conversation.
Yeah, not to mention I'm in a good mood right now, so let's not spoil that.
So right now, unofficially, almost every episode we have some alcohol consumption and we shout out what we're drinking. I'm sticking with my staple, Point Special. I mean, I think even in the days that we were living together, I was a Point drinker.
Blue Bullets.
And you're rocking the Central Waters Satin Solitude Stout. Kind of like the Big Butt Doppelbock. Do they just love coming up with names that are hard to pronounce?
Yeah.
When you're inebriated.
That's... yeah. Well, I think probably most of the time the names were devised when people were hammered. Like, guy probably tried saying something intelligent, but it came out Doppelbock.
He said 4 words together while hammered. That's the name.
Yeah, so there we go. Now we have Doppelbock. And, yeah, but that's the thing with a lot of breweries nowadays is the names of things. You have to get ever increasingly weird because we're in a culture where there's a new one popping up every day pretty much.
As far as the craft brews?
Yeah, because we're in kind of a craft brew revolution. Everybody has kind of gotten tired of the macro brews, the old standbys of like Miller and Bud Light. And
Bud Light and
those.
Miller Light, to me, are just piss water. I'm going to say that straight up.
And I used to be of the same mentality, and, I guess getting to the heart of what we're going to talk about today, and, beer and beer culture and things like that.
That's right. Surprise.
So here we go, folks. Strap in. Enjoy the ride.
But no keys. Give them to a friend.
So I get it. When I first started getting into microbrews and things like that, because, obviously as an incoming college student, you're going to keggers, and it's the cheapest shit beer that you can get a hold of and everything like that. But you don't give a shit because you're a college student and
that's
you're
what you can
drinking
afford.
and you're trying to hook up with the cute girl from fourth floor and doing whatever you can just to enjoy everything. So you don't really care.
Right.
And some people never move on from that because they truly enjoy that style of beer. And when I first got into craft brew, I was the total douchey beer snob. Like, oh, you drink Miller Lite?
Well, we were both that way.
Yeah. And what I've come to realize is that some people's palates just can't handle it. I'm on board with the whole everybody's palate is different. I just look at my brothers. My brother Matt, he's a Bud Light guy. He'll try a cider every once in a while, but he'll try stuff that I bring home like during a holiday. He's like, dude, I can't do it. He's like, it's too much flavor. So
fair enough.
I think he just can't handle it. Now, my brother Mitch, who this is the brother that wants to start a microbrewery with me. We've got ideas
I've met Mitch.
already.
Good guy.
Yeah.
I remember you guys making mustard fish in Wausau.
Yeah. That was awful. That was quite possibly. I remember him and I sitting on the couch like, let's not talk about this again. Like this.
Well, you guys took
bury this recipe.
I remember him talking about it like, this is all we have in the fridge. All right, let's try it.
And I applaud his exuberance because he was like, I'm going to make this fucking work. And he tried, bless his heart, but it did not work.
It is what it is, man. Sometimes meals don't work out. After you and Andrew moved out, I remember I was broke enough that I had Cool Whip and chocolate syrup left in the fridge, and that I lived on that for 3 days.
Jesus Christ.
Nasty, dude. So nasty. But back to Mitch wants to start a microbrewery with you.
So, every time we get together and we talk, his palate lends more towards the sweeter styles of beers, the Hefeweizens, the Shandies, the wheat-based beers, which to my palate, that stuff's too sweet. I just can't handle it.
Like a one and done kind of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes not even one. Like I take a few sips and it's just like, no, I don't like that. I don't want to keep drinking that.
I'm kind of the same as you, but lately I don't know what it is. Like that Satin Solitude, that stout from Central Waters. I got a 6-pack of that because I told Jess that's my wife, that I was craving stouts or porters, and I actually brought you up. I'm like, back in the day, Nathan and I would like just mix our own 6-packs. We would bring home stuff that was kind of out of the blue to try it. And for some reason, like I had one of them, and I haven't been able to drink them since. There's something about that brand of stout that they have going on there that isn't clicking with my palate.
Yeah, and to this day, I can't drink beer and pizza. One of the American standbys. It's
really?
I take a swig of beer and then I try eating a piece of pizza, and it's like the beer throws off the tomato sauce, and all I get is a nasty metallic twang. And I'm like, how the fuck do people do this? I think part of it is I'm just kind of a fat ass, and I just enjoy my pizza too much, and I enjoy my beer too much. I just rather eat a lot or drink a lot of both at different times.
Yeah.
And then I end up bare-assed in my living room, face down, and
with the pepperoni on the back of your head. I knew that was later out somewhere. But so like, where are you guys at as far as like? Because Mitch, where's he at right now?
International Falls, Minnesota.
Oh, so
just across the border from Canada, pretty much.
But that makes it pretty tough for you guys to be able to get that brewery.
Yeah,
going.
And I still kind of think of it as a glorified pipe dream, because it's going to be extremely difficult to get off the ground. And both of us have a lot of ideas and visions as far as what we would like. But again, like I said earlier, we're coming into a culture now where there's almost a new one popping up constantly.
Oh, God,
so it's like, well, how do you be different? And I was reading an article in the St. Cloud Times when I was with my girlfriend's family over the holidays, and it was talking about how we've almost now perpetuated this culture where all craft beer is good beer. So now there's all these people that, well, it's microbrew, so it's good, when in fact, it's bad. Like, I've had a lot of bad microbrewed beer. I don't want to bring up specific names, but there's one located in kind of the northwestern part of the state where it's a gimmick brewery, and it is the most awful beer I've ever tasted.
Oh.
And I warn people away from it, like, don't drink this. So now people, I think there's this culture where it's like, well, if it's microbrew, it's got to be amazing. And while I think, yeah, there is a lot of wonderful stuff out there, that rule needs to be thrown out the window. That just because it's microbrew, like, just because it's microbrew does not mean that it's good beer. There are a lot of people that do it right. There are a lot of people that do it wrong. And you could have a really good brewery, really good microbrewery that makes a bad beer. And if they're really worth their weight, they're going to say, that was shit. We're sorry.
Well,
like, don't.
I guess Steven's Point is even kind of considered like a craft brewery now.
Yeah, I'm
glad they pulled Point Light.
Yeah. There's, and I should have started with, I am not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. He
knows what he likes, folks, and that's real craft beer. But it doesn't, like he just said, just because it's a craft beer doesn't mean it's a good beer.
Yeah.
You can still drop a turd in a bottle. It's still going to be shit.
And call it summer shandy.
Oh!
But
looking at you, Liney's.
Well, and I think part of it is...
Sorry, we're kidding, Liney's. Don't sue us.
Yeah, is that something we need to worry about? Slander?
We can.
That's why I was not bringing specific names.
I don't think we have enough listeners for it to really make a big difference.
But I guess to the point is, again, because there are so many options out there, people are constantly trying to reinvent the wheel, come up with a new crazy style and things like that, and it's not working in some cases. But
when it gets to the point of it just being a gimmick,
yeah,
you lose the quality.
The part of it is the consumer, where they don't know any better. They think, oh, it's craft beer, it's good, so they drink it, and even though they probably don't like it, they continue to drink it and buy it because, well, it's craft, so it's got to be good. And so I think to be a good microbrewery, you have to make good beer. Of course, that's kind of inherent in the idea. But I think a bigger part of it is you have to understand the culture, and you have to be cool people. You have to be likable people. You have to have a cool spot, things like that. Now, one place that I am going to bring up by name is Black Rocks Brewing in Marquette, Michigan. And the reason I do that is because while I say I'm not an expert, I have a friend who I would consider an expert. We graduated from Park Falls High School together, and he's one of the brewers at Black Rocks.
Oh, really?
Great friend of mine, does a great job. And so he took a job with these guys. They were a few guys who just loved beer, loved the culture of beer. And they essentially, from what I get from the story, is that they're just like, hey, let's do this. Let's make a microbrewery. Let's start it. And
that's when you want... I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's what makes the difference. When you want to start a microbrewery to make a good beer, that's where you get the quality. But when you're just looking to make money, you're going to lose the shit. Well, sorry, continue.
No, that's... So they're great guys. They know beer. They were kind of glorified homebrewers that started, putting things on a larger scale. But the thing is, they get the culture. They, part of their whole brand is that they just bring people together to enjoy beer, enjoy good company. They've got a great spot in Marquette for their tap room. And now they're doing so well that they're able to can. So they're canning, they're packaging their beer, they're able to distribute.
That's fantastic.
They're sponsoring events. So mountain biking and cycling.
Do you think you could pull some strings to get somebody on Rawcast? Come down from Marquette, Michigan for an hour-long show.
Well, in the heart of winter, they might not mind coming down because it's up on the shore of Lake Superior.
I've got some friends up in Marquette, and it's been brutal for them this year.
Beautiful city.
Absolutely.
And, the whole snowpocalypse thing when
Snowmageddon.
Yeah. My friend Chris, he's the one that brews up there. One of the most just relaxed people out there, and just kind of if you're saying something stupid, he will check you on it in a lot of cases.
Like,
and
I don't mean to interrupt, but that's dumb.
Yeah. But I'm always like, hey, yeah, how much snow are you getting up there? Oh, 90 something inches. It's like, well, Jesus Christ, can you even get anywhere? And meanwhile, people, and I get it, the East Coast is not, some parts are not handled to remove that much snow.
Oh, yeah.
But even here in Stevens Point this last week, Tuesday, everybody was losing their fucking minds over this storm that was coming through.
You're telling me I work at a local grocery store? Again, we don't say the name just because I don't need that kind of trouble. But working at the grocery store, holy crap. I'm a manager and I'm supposed to just help on the checkout when absolutely needed. And I work the checkout for at least 3 hours by myself. People were coming in buying 4 or 5 gallons of milk. We had old ladies that lived by themselves coming in and buying like 20-piece chicken saying, well, I don't know. It's going to be a couple days before I can get out. And it's
the
like,
roads were clear the next afternoon.
Are you waiting for the snow to melt? Or
like are you waiting till June? Like, I don't get it. And that's what I didn't get is it's like,
this is
we're
Wisconsin.
in central Wisconsin. Like 6 to 8 inches. We're like, okay, whatever. I don't get it. But people lost their fucking minds. Schools were canceled before the snow didn't start until fucking noon.
In like schools that typically don't cancel. Like it would literally take the school being on fire, flooding situations, and somehow a blizzard with an avalanche. And they're still like, we might do a half day.
Yeah. Wisconsin highway departments and municipalities are usually pretty well suited to get 6 to 8 inches of snow taken care of in pretty short order. Yeah. Now, if we're 10 to 12, yeah, that's a little bit more of an issue. Doesn't sound like that much more, but it's enough of an issue. And this is coming from my dad, who was, a supervisor for a local highway department for 26 years.
Dude worked hard, man.
But tangents.
That's you and I have always had a relationship of tangents. I think that if we didn't have food in the fridge when we lived together, our tangents would have starved us. Like before you know it, you and I would be, well, we need to study, or let's play a video game together. And 2 hours later, somehow we're calling Marvin's from the bar. That was the best setup ever. We would call from the bar to order food, and then leave the bar at closing time, go pick up our food, and it was from Marvin's was literally a 30-second walk to our apartment.
Not even 50 yards. Like I'm saying, maybe
I'm talking winter
30,
conditions.
40.
Yeah.
Good 30, 40 yards from our back door to Marvin's front door.
We'll get right back on topic after this. But do you remember the first time that we called and ordered Marvin's for delivery? I think I was the one that called and placed the order. Standing in the living room, I happen to look out the living room window and I see the Marvin's sign as I'm like finishing up my call. I get off the phone. I'm like, we're never doing this again. The sign's right there, dude.
Yeah, I can just imagine. Yeah, any special instructions? Yeah, just go to the guy swinging his dick out the window.
Go to the red light district. But no, I totally get what you mean with the craft beers. I've been out of it. Like this might shock you, but we kind of lost touch for a while, and after having our first kid, I went something like 9 months without a drop of alcohol. And it wasn't planned. I just didn't. Out of nowhere, I'm like, I haven't had a drop of alcohol in 9 months. Go get me a case of Point, a bottle of Jaeger, and a bottle of Windsor. I haven't been to a bar in close to 2 years, probably.
You're not missing much.
I know. Like Goose, I think I would more so go to Goose now for the food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be rude, but I mean, like on a typical night back in college, if we went out drinking, which was probably 2, maybe 3 times a month, if not more.
I would say turn that dial up a little bit, probably.
Okay, almost every Saturday and Sunday because I didn't work weekends.
Yeah, I remember us doing gin and Sierra Mists pretty often.
Thank you. I was talking to my wife. I'm like, all right, I haven't had gin in a while, and I cannot remember what it was we used to drink. Gin and tonic? No, because I don't like tonic. I just
I'm
can't.
a big fan of the gin and tonic.
I'm not, but maybe I haven't mixed it correctly.
Oh, well, I don't think there's a bad way to mix it.
I was heavy on tonic.
But, well, yeah.
But that's what it was, gin and Sierra Mist. Around the time I started our university chapter of that Invisible Children group, I remember hosting little meetings where I was already like 3 gin and Sierra Mist into it.
Yeah. Out of our academic excellence rocks classes.
Yes, but admittedly, listeners, I didn't earn my academic excellence glass. It was taken from a student who happened to get a second one. I did eventually end up earning the right to have one of those, but I never got the glass because I wasn't in the dorms at that point. But I mean, yeah,
the gin mist. It can't be 7-Up, can't be Sprite, because for whatever it is, the flavors don't mesh. But when you use Sierra Mist, it was a very happy congruence of flavors.
It was a perfect balance between pine needles and citrus. I swear to God.
Yeah, and I think I have an affinity for gin. I'm pretty sure, being the youngest of 4 brothers, at least at some point in time in my life, I was probably forced down and fed pine boughs. Growing up in northern Wisconsin, I think I repressed the memory, but I retain the palate for it.
Yeah, I didn't make it far away from home in life. Listeners, I grew up 15 minutes from where we're recording. Mr. Nathan over here grew up in Park Falls. And honestly, I went up to Glidden a few months ago, went through Park Falls. I remember texting you, like, where you at? Because if you were in Park Falls, you would have been hanging out with me and Sam. I guarantee it.
Yes, and we would have done the bar circuit.
And we didn't do the bar circuit. Granted, we did have...
Well, because it takes a couple hours because there's a lot of country bars in it.
Well, yeah, which is fine. One of my fondest memories with some of my cousins was when we randomly decided to go to the bars in Eagle River when we were up there. We typically didn't do that. And it became a competition. Eventually, there's something about my family. I think the Petersons and the Hilgarts would get along very well in this regard. We rolled up into a bar, and before you know it, everybody, the ladies and the guys, were buying us shots. They were buying us drinks. Before I knew it, we were drinking Jameson and Crown on the rocks
Holy shit.
in Eagle River. And I came home with something like $26 more than I left with. I'm not even kidding. And I don't know if I just stole waitresses' tips or what, or bartenders' tips. I think that happened with you a couple times where like I would come home with a couple extra bucks or something.
I just figured you were giving old fashions in the bathroom.
A nickel at a time.
No, I remember to embark on another tangent. I remember it was, I believe it was Memorial Day weekend. So it was before I was going to be starting a job on campus. But we had an engagement to drink at a local bar. So we both arrive at said bar and we start drinking, have a good old time. And then you leave to go get high with a chick that you kind of had a crush on at the time. And leave me alone at the bar. And
Is that Brittany?
Yes.
That night went horrible.
Yeah.
Horribly wrong.
I remember.
I told you about it?
I just remember part of it.
No, is that when we still lived together?
Yeah.
Separate story.
Yeah.
There's another story I can tell you off air.
Stay tuned.
Exclusive. Okay.
So anyhow,
I'm sorry.
I'm sitting in this bar, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only patron in there at this point because it was fucking noon. And so you leave to go get high with this girl, and I remember
we started at like 10.
Yeah.
10 in the morning. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a great day, and I wish I could do that.
I
anyway,
know.
so we're sitting there enjoying some beers, and it's a great bar in Stevens Point. And again, it was walking distance from our apartment. So I remember you saying, "Oh yeah, I'll be right back." Because I was like, well, are you going to be gone long? Because I'll just go do something else, and then we can meet back here. You're like, no, I won't be long. So you fucking leave, and I'm sitting there eating fucking peanuts, drinking beer, listening to Dwight fucking Yoakam on the jukebox. And the bartender's like, she looked at me with concern, like, are you okay? I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm good. My friend, he just left to
They'll be here.
he's coming back. I swear he's coming right back.
I think I ditched you to play pool, and then we went.
No, I think you just left
pool
straight
was
away.
a different time. Yep. Dude, we had so many of those nights.
I'm sitting
days,
there.
Mornings.
Times. So I'm just sitting there drinking, and I'm chatting with the bartender, who was, just a lovely person, as most of them are. And I texted my brother. I'm like, I'm sitting in a bar by myself, eating peanuts, drinking, listening to Dwight Yoakam. And usually this is my brother Mitch, and him and I, we've got a checkered past, but we're pretty close now. Usually he would respond with some smart ass reply, but he just responded, "Are you okay?" I think he was fucking concerned that I was gonna off myself or something. But I'm just sitting there like, what? And the time goes on. I'm like, where the fuck is this guy? So I end up going back home, and I walk in, and you're just fucking giggly as shit. And the girl's on the bed, just laying there,
passed
sleeping,
out,
taking a nap. Yeah, taking
That's
a nap,
why I didn't come back to the bar, though.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I can only replay in my head like the
time,
mild freak out beforehand, like, oh my god, she's not waking up, oh my god.
She's dead. Gotta hide the body. We live by Schmeekly, we're fine. That was a lust interest at that time, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it was just hilarious.
Speaking of old times.
I was sitting in my khaki cargo shorts at the bar. The stories we created in that apartment.
Weren't you the one that pulled me out of the bathroom at Partners when I redecorated?
I think so. Was that your birthday?
No,
your mom was there?
No, that was a different night, but that is where, at the time, this was before the smoking ban in the bars. I just want to point that out. And that's when the Cabin was having their beach party. And this is April, mid-April. And out of nowhere, my mom lights up a cigarette in the like one of 3 non-smoking bars downtown, and there's sand all over the floors because it's a beach party. She gets like 3 puffs into it, and I'm like, Mom, you can't smoke in here. And she just like flicks it in the sand and kicks some sand over, and she goes, well, I didn't fucking know. They didn't have a sign posted. I'm like, Mom, that's why you're at my 21st. But no, there was that night that Andy was celebrating his 21st, and like he had gone with a bunch of CAs from one of the other residential halls, and I think it was you and me. It was like, well, we need to kick the party off. Were you in the limo that night, or did you meet up with us?
I remember nothing of a limo.
Okay, I was working at UPS at the time. Ended up drinking with Andy. I want to say you met up with us. Because I think it was you that came, like, when bar clothes hit at Partners, I think you came into the bathroom. It was you. You almost ended up dragging me home that night. Remember that? Where I was saying I wanted Marvin's, and I ended up laying on the sidewalk? And you tried, like, 15 times to get me to get up, and you're like, seriously, dude, I don't want to leave you behind, but if you don't get the fuck up or we get a ticket, I'm leaving you behind.
I think this is ringing a bell now.
Because we had...
But where did the limo come from? I don't remember a limo.
It was his 21st birthday. It was Andy's 21st birthday, so his girlfriend hooked him up with a limo. I was supposed to work that night, and so I was like, well, I'll have 1 or 2 beers, and then I'll go to work, whatever. And like a 12-pack later, I think you ended up showing up at the Cabin, or not the Cabin, what's that other one?
The Outfit?
The Outfit.
Home of the Gladiator.
And that's what happened. At that point, I was like, dude, we need to show these people how to drink. Because these are people that are like, well, I'll have a Bud Light. And then they sip on it for 45 minutes. So you and I are like, all right, you know what? We're buying Gladiators for everybody. And we just downed them. Now, a Gladiator is what? Like 8 different types of alcohol in a pint glass?
Yeah, it's essentially a 16-ounce shot.
Yeah.
It's room temp. I found out later, because the first one I was sipping on like a fucking cocktail. I should have, the way I was drinking, I should have had a fucking popped collar and Sperry's on.
But I was doing the same. We didn't know you were supposed to drink it like a
somebody
shot.
politely told us with, I'm pretty sure, vulgar language, it's a fucking shot.
And we're like, fuck you. It is?
So we're sitting there, and we're like, well... And I just kind of look at you, and I'm pretty sure I had pretty big eyes at the time, like, I can't fucking take this thing as a shot. Like, I don't.
It was like we had pinkies
Like,
up when we first did
that
it.
would be like pants shitting drunk by
Yeah.
the end of the night.
And we became men about it. We had a tolerance built up. But I remember that particular night, I was like, all right, we need to show these people how to have real fun in Stevens Point. Because these were people, literally, like, why don't you put a nipple on that beer and nurse it all night? And so I think 2 or 3 gladiators later, because everybody, like, they thought, oh, here it is, a cocktail. Started sipping. I'm like, it's a shot. And so we're down in them, I think 2 to 3 gladiators, and then we went back to Partners. So we are within probably a quarter mile of our apartment. And Partners was having 52-ounce Long Islands on special. And so, remember Lindsay?
Yeah.
This is before I was married, folks, so if you try to tell Jess, she already knows about it. What's up?
Wait, which one? Which
Tall Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay. Yeah, gotcha.
The one that doesn't talk to me anymore. She like found her own way, and now she's a stranger. But I remember... Well, maybe this is why. I remember... I'm like, okay, everybody needs a Long Island. And apparently nobody did but me and Lindsay. Lindsay, this was like her first or second drink that night. Lindsay maybe weighed 110 pounds wearing concrete shoes.
Holding a rock.
And wearing a lead hat. But so I finished my Long Island and I'm just like, yeah, I finished that. And then I remember turning to Lindsay, who was like one of my best friends, completely platonic relationship, and I'm just like, give me a kiss. And I think she and I started making out, and before I knew it, my body was like, guess who's puking? So I go, I'll be right back. And the last I remember, this is roughly midnight. Bar closes 2:30. I go to the bathroom. I start heading into the stall. The toilet's to the left. So I run into the stall, turn left. Somebody had peed all over the floor around the toilet. I slipped on the piss, started puking. I puked down one wall of the stall, grabbed onto the handicap bar, puked across the toilet and onto the other part of the partition on the other side. And the next thing I remember was you coming in going, you all right? Dude, we gotta go. We gotta go. Man, dude, seriously, we gotta go. And so I start panicking. And I'm like, what? What? Do they know I'm in here puking? And you're like, dude, the fucking bar closed. So, like, I'm lost 2.5 hours. And I start going, okay, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, puke down my chin. You can tell I'm way too messed up. I'm almost to the door, and you're like, dude, you forgot your ID. I forgot you had to give your ID when you got a Long Island. And so I like, so full of shame, got my ID, and I'm just like, have a good night, sir. But yeah, I didn't go back into that bar for like another 2 or 3 years because I was like, they're going to know I puked everywhere.
You brought shame on you and your family.
Oh, dude, I forgot my face. Let's just say that. Those were the types of nights we had, though. And I wouldn't say we were stupid about it. It's not like we were like, hey, let's go driving.
Well, we were college kids.
We were college kids. We lived with, like, seriously, we had some good bars, probably at least a dozen bars within a 2-mile radius.
Yeah.
We never ventured to Maury's because that was kind of off the beaten path. We would, like, have a couple of Partners. Sometimes we'd catch the bus, head downtown, do that circuit, and end the night at Partners, which to me was the best way to go. You had a safe ride. If you got way too messed up, you were already within a quarter mile of your apartment.
Yep. Nice little walk.
Oh, dude, it was a good time.
A nice summer evening.
And I mean, you've talked about, like, back then you thought that it would be an incredible idea to open a bar. And I don't want to give too much away about the bar because I still think that the theme you had going with it was fantastic.
Well, and that idea has now rolled over from bar to that would be the tap room of the brewing company.
And see, that's
same ideas.
That is so good. You know what, people? You're not going to get to hear about it till they do it. So start, like, funneling them money or something. I'm sure you could do, like, a Patreon, or not a Patreon, probably like a Kickstarter or GoFundMe.
Yeah. GoFundMe. I just read a story about how some entitled kid started a GoFundMe just so people could help her buy a car.
I've
And I was
seen
like,
people use it so
I
terribly.
rather, get the money through a more, I guess.
Acceptable or respectable
Yeah,
means.
I don't, you know,
Like,
I
the guy
don't want to
worked his ass off.
I don't want to rely on other people to help my dream come true. And I think it would be kind of taking it from all the really great causes that are on there, like sick children.
Well, like my cousin has one. We did an episode about where she was trying to raise money to afford her flight to go to Romania for a week or two to volunteer in an orphanage that was understaffed.
That I would donate to.
But so and so
some
is saying they
kid-
want a new Prius.
Yeah, I don't want to donate to that. And I guess I don't want to be the person that's like, oh, hey, here's this cool thing I want to do. Give me money so I can do it. And I think that kind of cheapens it. Like I would.
That's why I haven't done it for the podcast. Actually,
Yeah.
I used what laptop I have, and I was able to save up the money to get the mics, the stands, and the mixer. I did it all myself so far. Still not a hit, but you know what?
Yeah.
That I can say that I worked hard to do this.
And it makes it more real.
Yeah.
Because you did it. And that's what I want the brewery to be. Is I did it. I have some other friends who are interested in contributing in some way, but like I said, right now it's most of a glorified pipe dream.
For the time being. And you know what? That may change. You never know.
Yeah. But I think
It took me 2 years to get the podcast going.
Yeah. And I think this community would be a great place to start it in because you have the population.
Yeah.
You're at a great crossroads between east, west, north, and south.
Look at Central Waters. That's a town of like 1,100 people. And they've had success. They just celebrated their 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
And I mean, the store I work at, completely dead because almost half the town had parked cars all along it for the anniversary party.
Yeah.
And that's a small town. So, I mean, with Stevens Point, we just passed, 27,000?
I think well, I'd say it's still probably not much more than
25.
25.
But then you've also got a total of 10,000 college students on average.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got plenty of population.
Yeah, and I think there would be the interest because there is still pretty young crowd in Stevens Point because there's a lot of great industry and companies that can still attract young people. And I think to have a thriving community, you need to have a place where people want to raise a family. You need young professionals that are starting their lives and are able to put money into the economy and things like that.
There's a lot of young professionals around here that don't have a job.
Yeah. Oh, that's another talk altogether.
Absolutely.
But
let's bring it back to beer.
I think you've got a great culture here. And, to start a microbrewery in Park Falls would be an ill-advised idea. You have a population that doesn't appreciate that type of culture. You have not much of a population to begin with less
Fair
than
enough.
3,000 people.
Yep.
Yeah, I forget the population, but the
It's small.
Community's hemorrhaging people. I think for fun, before my parents and I went to dinner one evening, we counted how many for sale signs there were in the local neighborhoods. And we stopped after 60-something, I think. So it was...
Hey, we'll get back to that in just a minute, taking a short recess. All right, Rawcast listeners, we're back. Apparently my wife came home. Somebody had to go pee. It was me. We were talking about getting a brewery going in the Park Falls area, the Northwoods. In addition to not having... Yeah, that was almost a burp. In addition to having a small population, not much of a draw for a craft beer, the transportation costs to go from the Northwoods to, even the Midwest would be astronomical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not enough there. And, as much, if it were further east, might work, Minocqua, Eagle River. There's already a few microbreweries over in that area.
At least with a major highway that...
Yeah. To the west, probably do okay.
Closer to
if
the
you
Twin
go up
Cities
to,
and Duluth.
Ashland, Superior, they've got a few microbreweries in that area. Fine.
And they at least have shipping
yeah.
to the East Coast through the waterways.
Yeah, but you go south an hour into that kind of dead zone of north central Wisconsin, there's nothing there. So not a great place to open, but there is a building there that I would love to relocate, and I'm hoping you saw it when you went up there.
I might have.
If you were on Highway 13 headed north,
Yep.
you would have passed right by it, and it is an awesome building. It's been for sale forever, and nobody can just make it work again. But it's an old supper club, dance hall type of thing.
I think I did see that.
But it's called the Grunerwald.
Yeah.
One of the most German names you can think of.
Der Grunewald.
And it's an all fieldstone building. Mm-hmm. Handpicked fieldstone. It's like, imagine that is your fucking tap house for your brewery.
That you've almost got half the setup you wanted right there.
Exactly. But that kind of building you can't move.
Yeah.
The other buildings, they actually relocate them. They break them up into chunks, and you can actually relocate a building.
Yeah.
But that place, that will outlast most of the buildings in that area. I think it's just that solid old construction.
In another 1,000 years, people are just gonna be like, they had stone buildings.
Yeah, and it will still fucking be there. But if I could somehow, I'm sure that I could do it. Take pictures of it, recreate it with the stone veneer that you can do, which
That would work.
insanely expensive in a lot of cases.
It may be insanely expensive, but you chip in that couple extra bucks, and it looks like the real thing.
Yeah, but
They've come a long way. It's not just like they're putting in fiberboard and it looks like rock. But we do have like competition, essentially, is kind of what you were saying earlier about how there are so many craft breweries or microbreweries around that there's that next thing, and like it gets too gimmicky. Like in Wisconsin, whether you're looking at a well-established brewery or a microbrewery, we have quite the selection.
Oh,
I mean, there are people out of state that have no idea of what we actually have because we aren't big enough yet. And I guarantee you people out of state haven't really heard of Central Waters. A lot of people know Liney's now, but I mean, Central Waters is a prime example. Even Point, they would distribute to 32 plus states right now, and still a lot of people haven't heard of them. There. But still not, which is odd.
Well, not to the scale of your Millers or
your
obviously, those types of things.
No, Anheuser-Busch.
And I guarantee you the folks, they might not even want it known to that much of a scale. And,
ever since they expanded, in my opinion, the Point Special has the flavor decreased a little bit.
Well, that can be ingredients, that can be water supply.
You don't know for sure.
No, you don't. You never.
It could
know
be the
for
bigger
sure,
batches. Maybe it's getting.
Could be. It's. I know that's a concern for a lot of breweries that are making the move. So they go from just opening in their tap house to putting it in a container. A lot of people are going to cans now because it's a lot more sustainable, and it's a lot better for their business model in a lot of cases. Yeah. And there's a lot of concern, well, once we can it, what's it going to taste like? Because it can change a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I know for some, I know a few smaller outfits that it was kind of like, well, shit, if this goes south, we're fucked, essentially, because it's, we're putting it all on here. We're expanding to can, and if changes the flavor of the beer and people don't buy it,
it's a huge
we're
risk.
Done. So,
but you're totally right, because you look at Leinenkugel's Honey Weiss. I would rather drink a Honey Weiss warm in a can than cold in a bottle. There's just something about, I think it brings out the best flavor when it's warm in a can as opposed to being cold in a bottle.
Yeah,
but Point Special, I would much rather drink it out of the bottle or on tap.
Yeah, ice cold.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that's inherent with styles of beers, because looking at a lager, do you know the difference between the two main styles of beer?
Enlighten all of us.
Ales, lagers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the difference, and again, I'm going to preface this with I'm not an expert, so the people out there who are going to get all up in arms, fucking relax.
He knows some shit, but he's
I
not
read a
saying he knows all.
book. So there's ales and lagers. And the main difference is time, yeast, temperature. Okay? So ales, usually brewed warm or hot for shorter periods of time. That is the most common. In your IPAs, your stouts, your pretty much every fucking beer available is an ale because
Okay.
they're a lot easier to brew. When you go to a lager,
Better for business that way. Then kick
yeah.
it out.
Well, exactly. So a lager is brewed cold, and it's aged. That's lagering. That's where the name comes from, lagering. So in Germany, a lot of them, they had fucking cool-ass caves where they could put their beer. And there are a few places domestically in the United States that have caves, where their brewery is actually located by a network of caves, and they can store their beer there to cool it, to age it, and things like that. It's really cool. There's actually, I believe, Potosi down in southwest Wisconsin has one such setup. There's caves there where they can age that stuff.
That's incredible.
But now people are trying to recreate lagers in a shorter time frame. And I think sometimes it works, but like any other thing, sometimes it doesn't work. So those are the main two categories of beers. Ales, lagers. Main difference, time, yeast, temperature. But I think lagers are enjoyed ice cold because that's how they're brewed and they're stored cold and things like that. Now, for me, a lot of stouts, I'd rather drink them room temperature.
Guinness tastes bad to me unless it's room temperature.
Yeah.
I know that's a little bit different, but
yeah, part of that might be personal preference too. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there where it's like room temperature beer, no matter what it is disgusting. I want everything ice cold. So again, a lot of it is personal preference.
There is a science to some of these brews.
Those types of things, absolutely. A lot of times there's a lot of science behind them. A lot of breweries have a lab where they cultivate their own yeast strains or, those types of things. And that's fucking awesome.
That's crazy.
Because when you look at it, there is a ton of science behind beer. Do I know any of it? No, because I'm dumb. I just like putting things together, following a recipe, and making a batch of beer. Now, I know some other folks who do all grain. And that, a lot more of it is, calculating things. I know a few guys who could probably give you a whole chemistry rundown of it. And they're fucking nerds. But they're nerds who like to drink beer. And they're fun people.
They create stuff for me, and I like it.
Yeah. They just tell me what the fuck I have to do, and I do it. I follow directions really well. But am I going to put any of the brain power into it? No, because I'm dumb and I'm lazy. So
Nathan's got a long history of calling himself dumb, but he's a college graduate. He knows what's up. Take it for comedy, not self-deprivation.
yeah, I've read a book or two.
Self-deprivation? Defecation?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If I have a little too many, yeah.
I poop myself.
But there is a tremendous amount of science behind it. But I think a lot of it is art and style and following it close to style. I think if you were to take a lot of American beers over to Germany, they would be like, what the fuck have you done?
Yep.
Because, there's the old German purity law of the only things beer can contain are water, hops, and barley. That's Reinheitsgebot, the German purity law, 15 whatever. That's their ancient law that all of their breweries follow.
It is an ancient... Wow.
Yeah, no, they didn't establish it in the 50s. Like, they established
1500s.
it. Yeah, I believe so. Don't quote me on that. I read a book, but obviously didn't retain a lot.
We just quoted Nathan on Twitter.
So anyway, in ancient purity law, those types of things. But when you look at it, those styles, my dad had a friend who took a trip over there, and he drank probably gallons of beer, and he never had a hangover because it is so pure. They do it so well that
is on my bucket list to travel. Like, maybe we should do that someday. Is travel
take Rawcast to Germany for Oktoberfest.
Oh, why do you have to say things like that?
It would be an hour and 15 minutes of...
We're recording an episode in the middle of a trailer park right now in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and you're telling me that we should go do Rawcast in Germany.
Yeah.
Now that is the pipe dream, really.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I making you cough?
No, I've had a chest cough for a while.
Better than an ass cough.
Let's not get into my medical history. But so
it's so dry in here.
God damn it.
Sorry.
So again, talking about styles, if we were to take a lot of stuff outside of the United States, a lot of the stuff that's celebrated here in the United States might be looked on like, what the fuck is this?
Subpar, yeah.
Well, maybe not subpar, but like, wow, this is just crazy. And or it's, they might, yeah, some people might look down on it. And
this is crazy. I don't think I'll be drinking this again.
But the cool thing is there are so many styles out there, and there are some obscure styles that are coming back into the limelight. And the one thing, just with any other industry, any other product, there are fads with brewing. And maybe not even fads, but themes. So for a while, it was barrel-aged stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you brew a beer and then you age it in a whiskey barrel or something
barrel
like
stouts,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that creates an awesome beer. Like, so much flavor, it's a kick in the mouth sometimes, and it's wonderful.
Wow.
There was a beer
Isn't that
at
Tang's slogan? You can't use that.
There was a beer at a beer festival I went to, and it was so at some beer festivals, they have a keg that they save, and it's like, okay, we're doing a 3:00 tapping, and when it's tapped, it's done. Like, that's all we brought was this one barrel of it, and if you don't get any, fuck you, wait until next time you make it. So there was one from this brewery. It was a chocolate cherry stout aged in a white Zinfandel barrel.
Oh.
Like, when I think of that, I'm like, holy fucking shit, that was probably delicious. And I fucking missed out. So I can't tell you what it tastes like, because usually when they tap those, everybody and their fucking cousin goes to that booth at that time, and it's a cluster to try to get a beer.
But still, that creates the draw, because then you're basically falsifying demand.
When you hear it, it's like a chocolate cherry stout aged in white Zinfandel. It's like, you want to try that. Even if you don't like that style of beer, you want to try it just because it's crazy.
I prefer red wines, but a white Zinfandel with beer, like, that could be pretty damn good, because you're not getting the full flavor of the Zinf.
Yeah, you're just getting a few notes from it.
And that's a symphony in
like
your mouth.
A barrel-aged stout, that style lends really well to those types of, the vanillas that you get from a whiskey, the oaked, the roasted flavors. That goes exactly with what a stout is at its base.
Yeah.
So it pairs really well. Other styles where you add peppers to beer. Now, there was this beer.
Tell me more.
So some of them go very bad, or at least very bad for me, where it tastes like I'm literally having mouthfuls of just ground black pepper. And that's fucking gross. Okay. For me, I'm saying for me. Other people, they might be like, this is the nectar of the gods. I want to bathe in this every day.
All comes down to personal opinion.
Comes down to palate. Absolutely. But there are other beers where they add jalapenos and things to that. So one I tried, it was a pale ale made with jalapenos, and it was at I'm not, for listeners out there,
ever since Nathan and I have been friends, I've never cared for the pale ale style for the most part, but I think with a little jalapeno in there, that might bring enough life to the pale ale that I would be down with it.
Yeah. I get a little tight in the pants when I hear pale ale, so it's
I know
that style.
You've been a huge fan of the pale ales, and for some reason, I don't know, there's just something about it that I'm not.
Well, for a lot of people, they're too astringent and just too bitter, and it doesn't jive with them. But I think as a style, it's the most beloved style in the United States.
Probably.
If you make a good IPA as a brewery, you're set, because people go crazy for a good pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think it was a beer made by Black Rocks, the brewery that I mentioned earlier that a good friend of mine works at.
No, that was the Michigan one. Yep.
Marquette, Michigan. I forget what the base was, but I'm pretty sure it was a pale ale. But it was made with a bunch of chilies, because a local, again, these guys are huge into the community. They're huge community activists, and they're awesome guys. But a local farmer or a local gardener, he's like, hey, I have a shitload of peppers. Do you guys want them? And they're like, yeah, we'll put them in a beer. So they made a beer with these chilies or jalapeno. I forget what style of beer, but it was delicious. So you had just a very nice, smooth pale ale base. And forgive me if that's the wrong base, but I'm pretty sure it was a pale ale. But then you got that that peppery,
like
just
roasted pepper, but then the heat.
No, it wasn't roasted. It was just they were fresh peppers. You just got that heat. just that heat from the pepper, and it was fucking delicious.
Wow.
I could have drank pint after pint after pint of that beer.
I think I would love that.
Another beer that I tried, and this is at the UP Brewers Guild Fall Beer Festival up in Marquette, Michigan. One of my single greatest weekends out of my life every single year. I go up there, and I love it because these people, they know fucking beer, and there are so many great beers to try. But one of them was a milk stout brewed with ghost chilies and cinnamon. So you have this super smooth stout, and then you get that, again, that heat from the pepper, and then like a dessert finish from the cinnamon. It was just,
oh my God.
Trying it, it's like, holy shit.
It was like a meal in your mouth.
Yeah, it was delicious. So there are so many crazy styles out there. And that's the thing with beer, is I think you can do a lot of crazy things. You can push the envelope. You can add ingredients. There's so many breweries out there where it's just like, what can we do next? What can we add to this beer? There have been beer, maple beers. Brews made with maple syrup. Beers made with bacon. That kind of stuff. Where they infuse them and things like that. And some breweries, because of the cost, they use extracts. So they use the flavor extract to get the flavor. But there are a lot of breweries out there that use whole ingredients.
Like absolutely fresh.
Yeah, and part of some beers is a sugar, because that's what the yeast eats to make, that's what the malt creates.
Okay.
Is sugars and things like that, and that's what helps create the alcohol. So some of these beers you can add weird fucking sugars. Like there are some obscure like Mexican sugars and, Eastern European sugars. So you can add that, and that creates different flavors in the beer. There are just so many crazy things that you can do. So
you're giving me so many ideas, and for not having been in, like, seriously, I haven't been in the craft beer mood since, or mode, I should actually say. I've always wanted it, just can't really spend the money. I can't spend $14 on a 6-pack.
I don't care how poor I get. That's something I will always spend the money on, is good beer.
I think the only difference is that I have kids now, so it's like,
yeah,
diapers or beer, literally.
That's a huge. A kid can shit all over the floor for all I care, as long as I have a good beer to go to.
Don't say that too loud. They might listen to this episode. I don't know. But no, that's the thing, is like hearing a lot of this stuff. I'm not familiar with any of it, so that's kind of blowing my mind.
I can continue to mind hump you with the styles of beer that are just, there's so many crazy things. And like the single most glorious moment that I have sometimes is when I go to a grocery store and they have the beer selection, and you just go through and you look at the labels and you look at like, what the fuck is this?
Those
like,
make your own 6-packs at Triggs are
the greatest
pretty
fucking
damn good.
thing. And now JR's, from what I hear from a little bird, is that they have really put money down into their build a 6-pack thing. So I'm really looking forward to going to JR's.
And the store I work at refuses to do that. They actually have a sign that says no mixing. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
you know how
you
much
need to be able to allow that. You're gonna see a boom if you allow that, because there's no worse thing than being really excited, buying a 6-pack of a beer. You have a few sips out of the first bottle, and you're like, that's gross. So now you're left with 5.5 bottles of a beer that you no longer want.
Even that Satin Solitude, it's not a bad stout. I will not say it's a bad stout. It just didn't click with me. So I think whatever you put back in the fridge when you switched over to a point special, that's the same bottle from the first 6-pack I've gotten of that. Yeah. And I'm not saying I've had it for years, but I think that beer has been sitting in there for a good 3 months at least.
Yeah. And, sometimes you're just in the mood for a certain style of beer. And, I'm kind of on board with the whole seasonal type of thing too, where in the middle of a 90-degree summer day in
you're
late
not
July,
going to want
early
a point
August,
Oktoberfest.
Yeah. Or I don't really want a real thick stout either. I want something with a little more bite to it, maybe a little more effervescent, something like that. And that's, pale ales, those types of things.
Well, like you said with Shandy earlier, like the Leinenkugel Summer Shandy, everybody that I know that drinks light beer goes apeshit over that. Yeah. That's their craft beer.
A lot of people do. And I'm not.
But I can't.
I made an offhand joke about it, and that's all it was a joke.
There's a
And,
reason it's popular.
yeah, people love it.
But I can
to
only
me, it's
drink
too sweet.
one.
Yeah.
I drink one, and I need to take a break from drinking before I switch back to something.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. It's too sweet for me. But going back to the whole thing, trends in beers. It was the whole explosion of the IPA, and where that came from, and how that's become like the staple. And usually, if you go to any tap house, they've got a pale ale. Well,
It's almost a requirement now.
Oh, absolutely, because it is probably the most popular style. But now the new thing are sours. Sour beers.
Really?
So there are a few, and these are more obscure styles of beer. One of them is a Berliner Weiss. Another is a Gosa. And I had to learn how to pronounce that at the beer festival this last year because I found it's spelled Gose. Okay. So I was there, and I was like,
it's got the old world to it. Okay.
I had to ask my friend, the guy who brews, which he's my expert. Anything beer I want to know, I reach out to this guy. I'm like, what the hell is this? And and he explains it's kind of this old obscure style, but it's a German Gosa and it's a sour.
Wow.
So in a lot of sours they use wild bacteria, and they add wild bacteria to it. Common style is lactobacillus. It's a non.
By the way, that's not actually just adding, bad stuff to it. It's adding reactives.
Yeah. And, I think when people hear bacteria, they freak out, but it's like the bacteria that's in yogurt. It's a good form of bacteria.
Absolutely.
It's not going to give you E. coli or anything like that, even though we already have E. coli in our gut anyway.
Listeria.
There are lots of different styles of E. coli. But anyway, so they add this bacteria to the beer, and it imparts a sour taste to the beer, and it's its own. It's its own style.
It's like a beer flavored whiskey sour almost.
Well, yeah, it probably doesn't have the bite of the whiskey or anything like that.
Well, yeah,
it's just think of a beer that kind of just makes you pucker a little bit. And again, I haven't tried a whole lot of them, but the ones I've tried, pretty dynamite. Like
nice.
Unless you know about it, if you were a first time person taking a swig of this, you would probably be like, what the fuck is this? Is this bad? Like it's skunky, right? But it's sour. It's supposed to be, and it makes
I
you
would like
pucker
to
a
try
little bit.
that.
Yeah.
Do you know where you can get any of those sour style beers around here, or not really?
Well, you can always try the standbys of finding it at a local retailer, those types of things. But I think one that I tried recently was actually from Oso's Brewing right here in Stevens Point. It was on tap at
Oso's makes.
Yep, it was at Goose. Now this is a number of weeks ago, and they had some different beers.
So it might already be out.
Correct. Yeah, but so I think for the upcoming year, the sours are probably going to be in the limelight as kind of the trend for beer for this next year. Kind of going away from the barrel aged stuff, but there's just endless variety out there, and I would not want to be in the position of a person just kind of breaking into this whole scene, because you can get overwhelmed. Even me, where I know what I like, I know what I don't like. Every time I go to Cellar 70 or someplace, it's like, Jesus, what do I want? And
it's 15 minutes of standing, but what do they got? 4, 5 coolers?
Yeah.
Or like 4 or 5 doors to the cooler.
Yeah.
Where you have your make your own 6-pack. And I know that when you and I would go shopping together there, even for when we were just first starting to venture out in our taste test, I guess, it was tough. It was like half of our shopping experience was spent standing in front of the pick your own 6.
What am I going to get?
I don't know.
And, bless my girlfriend's heart, she's very patient with me when I go shopping for beer.
There she is holding your wallet and your purchases for once, and you're just like, when we get to Kohl's, I got you.
I'll hold your purse, fine, but right now you're going to hold my wallet when I look for beer. It's fun because there are so many styles, and even within a style, there's so much variability because, the IPA style, it's an IPA, but what kind of hops are you going to use? How much of each hop are you going to put in?
Just with the small grocery store that I work at, I think we have something like 8 or 9 different IPAs. And it's like, that's a small town grocery store in a population of like 1,100.
Mm-hmm.
To have that much variation on an IPA, like, what does that mean is out there? There's got to be just hundreds of IPA brews that we don't even know about yet.
Oh, yeah. And it's one year at the beer festival up in Michigan, a friend and I, we went on just a tilt of IPA after IPA after IPA. And after
you got to kind of stay within the region. Otherwise...
Yeah, well, the problem was, after our like 4th and 5th sample of an IPA, we look at each other like, well, fuck, we're not going to be able to taste anything else.
I suppose.
Because it's a pretty dominant flavor. It kind of washes out your palate. You
started with the strongest.
So, yeah, a lot of them were very pungent. Some of them were DIPAs or double IPAs. So they're even more packed with hops and things like that. So we just kind of had this knowing look at each other and we're like, well, kind of fuck this up. So we had to kind of wash our palate down with some other sweeter type things and things like that to kind of bring it back to a happy balance.
Well, yeah, because if you go after 4 or 5 IPAs, switch to a straight up lager, ugh.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bad time.
You're gonna have a bad time. No, that's odd. I didn't even realize like you continued on with the standard we were setting as far as taste testing.
Oh yeah.
Like you went in and got the research done. Like you said, you may not be an expert, but you know a hell of a lot more about beer than the average Joe.
I was gonna say that's kind of how I, there are definitely people that know a lot more than me, but I think if you were to take me and a random 10 people off the street, I probably know more than they do. But again, it's up to me. Like, I thirst for the knowledge of this stuff because I'm passionate about it. And anywhere I go, any person I talk to, it's like, if we start talking about beer,
some knowledge is going to get dropped.
Well, yeah, not only that, but I will continue to talk about it forever. And I always look at my girlfriend, like when we're in a social setting, she's kind of like my social compass. She kind of keeps me in check, like, can I talk about this? So I look at her and I look at her like, can I? And she usually gives me a nod or a tap on the shoulder, like, yeah, sweetie, it's okay.
She gives you the go-ahead, and you're just like, all right.
And I'm like, all right, well, grab a notebook, shithead.
Listen up, fuckers. You're going to be here a while.
The professor's in.
No cell phones.
But, all joking aside, it's something I am very passionate about. I love it, and a happy accident is that you get the warm fuzzies of drinking alcohol out of it. But I think beer, it to sound douchey, it crosses cultural boundaries. It's
beer is really, to sum it up, it's old as shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We have evidence.
Ancient.
We have evidence of ancient Egypt.
Yeah, it's how they preserve their water.
Yeah,
because the alcohol helps preserve it. The IPA gets its name from when British colonies would transport beer. They would pack it full of hops because hops is a natural preservative, so it would make the journey across the oceans to get to the colonies in India. Hence the name India Pale Ale.
Fair enough.
That's where it comes from.
You just dropped some knowledge on us.
Yeah. And again, for somebody out there that's hovering over a textbook about beer, if I got it wrong, fuck off.
Just email Gmail, at rawcastad@gmail.com, message us on Facebook or direct message us on Twitter and tell us he got it wrong, and I'll let him know and he'll tell you to fuck off.
I'm open to feedback. If I got it wrong, educate me. But I'm pretty damn sure that's where the name came.
I think Nathan actually has a steady supply of business cards that just say fuck you. But no, man, I really appreciate having you on. And I think you just kind of open up a whole new world, found a whole new direction with Rawcast. And that's redefining or refinding the passion for real craft beers. Too many people, I got a lot of family members that go straight to the Busch Light, straight to the Bud Light, straight to the Miller Light. And I mean, we said that different palates, different strokes for different folks, basically. But I'm in that position where I've tried a lot of beers, or so I think. To me, it's a lot. And for the most part, solid. But it sounds like you've taken it to a whole new level where I'm behind and I might need to catch up with you.
And, I think the main thing is, just drop the snobbery. Just know, hey, this is what I like. That's what you like. The main thing is we're having a fucking beer and we're having a good time. That's the big thing behind it, is just,
in moderation.
you know, check, just, you know, kind of like the whole check your privilege thing. Just check your attitude about it. It's
Fair
there to
enough.
have fun. Just enjoy it. If somebody's drinking Busch Light, you don't know. They could just not like anything else. Maybe there's an emotional thing behind it, that's where that's all their dad drank. You know,
Yeah.
you never know what kind of shit influences
Old style
person's
ham,
decision.
Schlitz, who knows?
You
There's
know,
plenty out there.
Yeah, exactly. Just find what you like, enjoy it. And if you really like it that much, try sharing it with people. But if they take a sip and they spit it out, or their eyes go crossed, they're like, I don't like that. Don't call them a bitch. Don't call them whatever. Just say, oh, okay, cool. At least you tried it. And pat them on the back because at least they tried it.
That's the big thing, is if they try it, you got to give them props. The respect is due
Absolutely.
when somebody steps outside their comfort zone and gives it a shot.
Yeah, like a whiskey snooter.
Oh, oh my God. That is a story for another time, because with part 1 and part 2, we're coming up on an hour. But next time, we will for sure cover the whiskey snooters and Nathan's bloody nose. It is whiskey snooter. Think about it, folks. It's exactly what it is. But we do have to end this episode, wrap it up. I appreciate having you on, Nate. It's been
Thanks
a
for
while.
having me.
Oh, no, thank you. The pleasure is all mine.
I'll be back.
You better be. This is fantastic. You taught me a lot about beer that I had no idea as far as what happened in the brewing world. And I like how you summed it up. You know, everybody has their own taste, and with how microbrews have basically exploded and there's nothing but choice across the board, there's going to be people that don't like something. There's going to be people that love everything. There's going to be people that have to champion one over the other. But everybody needs to take a step back and realize that brewing is essentially an art form. And you can't really critique somebody's art by comparing it to another.
Because what is art? It's subjective.
Yeah, we had long talks about that back in college, because I was a Bachelor of the Arts, and art is subjective. Rule number 1 about art: no one's right or wrong, because it is subjective, much like brewing. But brewing is a much more happy, fuzzy feeling than looking at what is now modern art. Actually, the fact that there's a happy feeling at all tells you that it's a better form of modern art. But no, we definitely want you on in the future, man. Again, hopefully it didn't keep you too late, but thank you so much for being a part of this adventure.
Thank you.
Signing off, Nathan, the former brew snob and beer lover, beer drinker, and beer researcher, so shall we say.
Dare we say use scholar? No,
Scholar.
too far.
Perhaps. Well, you did say professor before, which would make you a scholar. But with an episode discussing mostly craft brews and having a few brews, this is Nathan and Doug with Rawcast AD. Join us next time.